Welcome to the Marvel Cinematic University podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Canton III, and we're continuing our coverage of the Disney Plus series Secret Invasion Episode 4, Beloved. So beloved. I don't know about this show being beloved, but we're gonna try and get into that. But first, we have the super producer with us. Jake Christie's in the house, wearing quite the hat. Jake, how are you?
Thank you. In a previous life, and by that I mean my freshman year of college, I collected hats of teams that don't exist anymore. So there's, of course, a Harvard Whalers hat, mostly just because I grabbed it quickly and I couldn't find my Vancouver Grizzlies hat.
Well, there you go. How about that? Nice little fun fact right there. And returning this week, a friend of the show, Rod Morrow, aka the Black Guy Who Tips. Rod, welcome back. How you doing, sir?
Hey, glad to be back, man. Appreciate y'all. Appreciate y'all. That's all.
Of course,
Full
of
thanks.
course. we let's jump right in, cause okay. So I was thinking about this while I was watching the episode the second time, because I like to watch these twice before we do these shows, and I think the thing that kind of stood out to me the most about my own feeling about it was similar to episode 3, where it's like I feel good about some of the stuff that's happening on the screen. I'm enjoying some of the stuff that's happening on the screen, and yet there is this feeling of emptiness. I don't know why. Is it something in particular? But it makes me feel a type of way about where I leave the episode, and I feel like I should have felt more. I should have felt something different emotional wise. And I think that's the thing about the MCU. The MCU, to this current time, has had a lot of instances where we have become close to characters, close to storylines, and gotten to the point where we, feel some type of either whether it's kinship or type of emotional value in the stuff that we see happening on screen. I'm not feeling it with this, and I'm not sure why. Rod, if you agree, disagree, however, how would you characterize your feeling as you watch episode 4?
um, I mean, I think I'm kind of in the phase of I still like a lot of this Marvel stuff, and I still enjoy the universe. So I'm enjoying the program, just because it furthers that. But
Yeah,
at the same time, uh it's not like when I watched Miss Marvel and it felt so new and different and kind of hit the ground running and I was just like, oh my God. And I think part of that is the function of the fact that these are older characters that we know. So there's a responsibility of the script and the show to kind of keep them in a certain lane. Like you don't want to get deviate too far from what you've done, or else
yeah,
it's just kind of like you threw everything away. So I think maybe part of this is we're returning to like baseline MCU stuff, and we and
yeah.
for the last few times it felt like we've been branching out. We've been She-Hulk, Miss Marvel,
Right.
Moon Knight. Like, so I think this one doesn't feel different enough. It feels almost like a throwback to the 2010 or whatever.
No, that's interesting. Jake, how about you?
I think that it just there's a lot of tension that's kind of missing because I was thinking about like the good political thrillers and the difference between that and this is not necessarily a death knell of the show, but like usually a political thriller is about one or two people who know what's something that's going to happen and they're fiercely trying to stop it. I feel like it's really hard to make tension when it seems like the whole point is that Nick Fury doesn't know what's going to happen. Like he's always a step behind. And so like a thing I was thinking about today is like I asked myself like why did episodes 3 and 4 need to be separate episodes? And then that made me think is there an actual explanation of why the Skrulls wanted to do the submarine attack if they were going to try to kill the president anyway?
Yeah.
Like, why? Like, and I think that like there is. I'm sure that you could come up with an explanation. I'm sure they could give one, but I feel like a lot of these Marvel shows, they are sacrificing narrative propulsion by withholding things to try to surprise you later. Like we should know way more about what the Scrolls master plan is at this point in order for there to be narrative tension. The fact that we still are like, what are they gonna do? Like, I just don't. It just makes me like not that interested in. Gravik is an interesting character because he's like so captivating, but what is his ultimate goal besides just destroy all humans? Why does he want to do this, that, or the other? Um, there's none of the that it's just exciting when there's like a race against time, when there's a one man against the system. And yeah, Nick Fury's the one man against the system, but he knows less than the system does. And so Um, yeah, like I said, it just if Nick Fury is the protagonist of the show, and he is, then it almost feels like everything in the show is just happening to him. He is making nothing happen in the show.
Yeah, and I'll go back to the thing that I said last weekend. When you talk about the withholding, Jake, to me again, the not knowing specifically why Fury has been up there this entire time has held the story back a lot in a way that you can't really know or feel the type of tension from his side of it, because there's a lot of things that he's doing where, like you said, he's reacting to things as opposed to doing things in advance. So it's tough to kind of get like a real feel. And I mean, I'll be honest myself, the scenes with he and his wife are not landing, or just don't land in a way that they should, especially, you're reading a poem and you're really getting into the trying to get into the romantic aspect of it, and it doesn't feel like that at all. It feels more perfunctory as opposed to something that's supposed to be meaningful. So I think there is something with the writing in terms of Nick Fury's character that I think that they have misstepped on clearly, and I think it definitely has hurt the show. I think it's too to me, we've gotten to the point where now we're 2/3 of the way. We have 2 episodes left. Yes, things have happened, things are going on, but it does not feel like we are arriving at a place where I can't wait for episode 5 because we want to see what happens next. It's more like episode 5 is continuing. We'll see what happens next. So it's a different type of feel to it. But I do want to hit this point. I want to hit this point first to start. So the biggest thing that comes out of this so far is that Rhodey is a Skrull. We'll get to the Talos stuff a little bit later. Rhodey is confirmed to be a Skrull. So we've had this conversation for a couple of weeks now, wondering if this is so. When did this occur? We'll get to that in a second. But the reveal of him being a Skrull in this case, being a woman Skrull in this case, was very interesting and in a lot of ways funny. Now, Rod, I know you posted earlier that you had some thoughts about race and Skrulls in this particular project and how that's worked. Give me your thoughts, and I want to bounce off of you.
Okay, I got a few, right? So
Mhm.
one, with them saying they were mirroring the Russians as like propaganda and infiltrating the United States governments and all this different stuff. It's interesting because they said they were going to go loud like the Russians, and I was like, I would argue the Russians are not loud anymore. They use surreptitious means to manipulate their foreign opponents, right? But
Mm.
but they so when they did that whole like big shootout thing, I was like, that doesn't feel like people would be like, that's Russia. Um, but it did feel like the other stuff they do naturally as scrolls feel like Russian propaganda infiltration type of things where like Russia uses schisms of like that already exist in somebody's society to and they manipulate it. So they post a lot of like racial social media stuff because
Mhm.
there are black people who obviously have animus towards America based on like factual racial stuff that has happened. But then Russia wants to push that so that the party they don't want to be in power doesn't get in power, right? And so seeing scrolls adapt to the world, see the difference in race, choose to be black to infiltrate Sam Jackson, the government, to use the racial like conversations between Sam Jackson and Rhodey, knowing they're not black and they don't have any like black race. If that actually felt very Russian like hey, whatever it takes. I love that they acknowledged
Mhm.
that the wife saw that Sam was into black women and was like, all right, I know how to get his defenses down. That's like to me, like the more interesting stuff that is happening in the show is stuff like that because
Mhm.
I was worried the show would be racially tone deaf, and instead I'm finding it to be kind of smart. Like that's very racially aware to say we know this black man has a preference of dating black women. We're going to use that. But I'm not black. I'm actually manipulating him. I am a spy, and I'm doing this on purpose. And I'm telling like the audience knows he knows when he's pissed about it, that's part of what he's pissed about. He feels foolish for letting that happen. And I thought that
Yeah.
those are the moments I want to explore. Like I like a longer. I know that's not fighting and it's not Marvel, but that's real life compelling to me to be like, how does race work in the Marvel world, especially after we've had Falcon and the Winter Soldier and stuff like that. I'm interested in race in
Right.
the Marvel world. Black Panther, like they have talked about it, and I think this is a good place to talk about it. So that's one part of it. The second part of it is the as black coded as I feel like this series is the blackest Rhodey's ever talked. Like he's been in other things, but like this, like listen, brother, and then see that that's just like a scroll that is doing all that like brother speak is it that feels weird to me in a way that
I,
like I don't care that she's a woman in that it doesn't matter to me that so like I actually think that's an interesting thing. I think you could,
no, it is. Yeah.
especially the way that she like hates going back to being a human after taking her shower. That was like a really, once again, those are dope moments. Like they
Yeah.
should concentrate more on like the way the scrolls hate having to like not be themselves here, as opposed to like the I don't know, trying to rush it through to be like it's Russians and we're blowing shit up. So anyway, all that stuff to say, those two racial
Yeah.
elements to me are interesting, and I definitely need them by episode 6 to tell us when, and I'm sure they're going to, when has Rhodey been
Yeah.
replaced, because this better not be all the way back to when every time we've seen Rhodey, he was not a black man, he was just a scroll, because I think that eviscerates the character. It takes away so many moments with that character that people love, and so I hope they don't do that.
No, I mean it's cultural appropriation, to be honest with you.
That's great.
It honestly does. It does feel like when you see someone online who's clearly a white person pretending to be black, do they use different
Yes.
expressions incorrectly?
Yo, the verbiage. Oh my god, Jake. Let me tell you,
Yeah.
man. And Rod, let me tell you, man. When he's talking about he's talking to Vera and he's talking about he's using the wrestling jargon with Undertaker DDT from the top rope. First of all, Undertaker don't do no damn DDT
Right.
from the top rope.
Right.
What are you talking about? Who wrote that line? God damn it!
Right.
What's wrong with you? And then
And they're in like a white
yeah.
church that is singing a Negro spiritual, and so like I said, if it's purposeful, that is really intelligent, incisive, like subliminal thought, to message your audience like we're aware that this is basically like white people acting black. I'm like, yo, that is really deep. If it's just like we thought it was cool, and I hope it's just not we thought it was cool, then that is really, really stupid. And you kind of missed the point, you know?
Yeah, it just makes me wonder because it's like he's having the back and forth with fake Rhodey is having the back and forth with Fury, and then it just makes me wonder, was he really Don Cornelius all along?
Right. I mean, that is one good thing is if they, depending on when they replaced him, if they bring him back, we can be like, okay, he really wasn't selling everybody out. Like he was not a coon. That was scroll machinations. If that is, you know what I'm saying, if that is how they choose to show like, oh, he was replaced after Endgame, and every action he's had since then, or maybe even after Falcon and Winter Soldier, but every action he's had after then, that's suspect. We don't have to count that for the real James Rhodes. But man, they can mess this up a lot of ways, and I really just hope they don't.
They could, because
here's another thing I want to ask you, AC. Though.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you also feel like Nick Fury has been written way more blacker than he was before?
Way more.
Okay,
way more.
It's a lot of like little stuff. Like I'm not being racially paranoid, but it's just like a lot of scenes where I'm like, okay, Nick Fury is like super CIA spy guy that happens to be cool. He's not like cool guy that happens to be super spy. Like he's like, you out your reptilian ass mind, and like, you know what I'm saying? Pull up and grab a glass, brother. I'm like, man, he's like one episode of dropping the N word on here. What's that?
I will say, I think the pull up and grab a glass. I think since he's aware, he knows that Rhodey's a scroll at that point. Yeah. I think he's mocking the way that fake Rhodey is going over the top with.
Yes. That I love that scene. Like The stuff I love, I feel, and I really do love it. The stuff I love is this kind of stuff. It's
Yeah.
weird to say the Marvel stuff is the stuff I'm like, yeah, okay, I guess
It,
scrolls or something.
it's and I think Rod and you and I are probably similar on this, but like, I think that one of the things that's very annoying with popular sci-fi fantasy entertainment, I understand why it's the case, but like, whenever they introduce like a sci-fi element like the scrolls, I want them to explore every rule and every like different permutation and the ways that
Mhm.
it works. And I understand that that's not interesting to everyone. I understand people find it confusing or boring. It's why people don't like Tenet and they're wrong. But the thing is that
You in this Tenet, man.
it's a big Nolan conversation happening, and I'm just saying it's a movie that's great. But I think that there's so much stuff that is interesting from the scroll perspective that they're kind of just yada yadaing because the show's about Nick Fury, and I get that the show's about Nick Fury, but the thing that struggled me this whole time is when Nick Fury's wife, I apologize, I forgot, Vara is her name.
Vara's scroll name Priscilla.
Yeah. Yeah, Priscilla.
Human.
That
Yeah.
that she mentions that when Priscilla, the actual Priscilla, was dying, one of the things she promised her was that she would be the daughter to Priscilla's parents. That is like. No offense to the writers of the show, that scenario of her trying to pretend to be this daughter while being an alien while still trying to be
Yes.
like a spy scroll is more interesting than anything that has happened in the show. That is the most
Also,
interesting idea they've
also
introduced.
along those
Yeah.
lines too, when they absorb someone's mind or whatever, you
Right.
would assume they also absorb some of their thoughts about race, their experiences and
Yeah.
stuff like that, and that should inform them going forward. But it would also inform them of how big a fucking betrayal it is to do some of these things, and it feels like there's no, and maybe that's what they were alluding to last episode when they talk about the lack of empathy that they have as a race compared to humans. Maybe that's what they mean, is like,
Mhm.
whatever, we don't even care that that Nick Fury, part of this betrayal to Nick Fury is deeper than just a wife. It's like, y'all use my race to manipulate me, you know?
I think
Mm.
you can make the argument, and this is the thing that you'd have to, that I'm making, I'm being more generous to the show than the show is in its own writing, that you
Right.
could say that because they can change faces willy-nilly, they have no, they cannot conceive of the differences in identities to humans because they can become a black
Right.
person or a white person or an Asian person at will. That
Right.
is a thing that I am saying, that if the show wants that grace, that that's what they mean, that they have to say it. Like I can
Yeah.
say that, but like I actually don't know if that's what they mean.
I'm with
And
you.
that'll be
I'm with
interesting.
you. I'm interested in this. They're not exploring it, and so I'm being forced to like assume. And I've
Mhm.
arrived at a similar conclusion of like, they absorb the minds of their people almost like data. Like there's no values placed on it, good or bad. It's just all information you can use, and so therefore, the deep personal type of hurt that would happen when you found out like this is a fake black person who's been using
Mhm.
our racial connectivity to use me, like that is a deeper level of hurt, I think, than just being like, even like all the other spy stuff we see. That is a deeper, and they seem to have like no care for it. So I'm like, all right, I guess they're not going to discuss it, and I guess maybe it's because it's not important to them.
Yeah. I think that's fair, and it's one of those things where it is a surface level it's a surface level attempt to try and get something out of the viewer from an emotional
Mhm.
standpoint, and I think that's one of the things that this show has failed at,
Mhm.
clearly, to me. I think if this show had more of a, not just propulsion, and I wouldn't even say action necessarily, but just more of an intent
Mhm.
to kind of get us to a place where we're understanding the things that are happening on a deeper level as opposed to what seems to be easy. Yeah, I feel like everything has come easy. We've
Mhm.
had the end of episode, people getting shot. It's been very repetitive, actually.
Mhm.
People getting shot or dying at the end of an episode now 4 consecutive times. But
Mhm.
whether it's we've gone that way. It it just
Or as
feels
we like to call it in America, Tuesday.
Mhm. Yeah.
yeah, it's a fair point. It's a fair point. It's just it's very by the numbers, and it's by the numbers in a way that I didn't think that this show was going to be. I thought that this was going to be, the exact opposite of what you've said, which is true, Rod, is that this show feels kind of like basic MCU at the beginning, as opposed to the stuff that they've actually tried to take swings on. I thought the show was supposed to be a swing, and
Mm-hmm.
if anything,
It
it's
feels
an attempt
safe.
at no, it feels like a bunt. That's what
Yeah,
it
it
feels
feels
like a
like the
bunt.
safest show they've done so far, and it is weird to say that with multiple characters dying, but like it feels more like, listen, we got to get some of these actors out of here for phase 5 or whatever. Like, contracts are ending, people ready to go, whatever. It's like, all right, cool, here's your exit package, episode 1, episode 2, we're gonna get you out of here, man, you've been doing other stuff. So that's a big part of it, as well, to me. And I think we've also seen so much of this. Like, the universe is 13 years old now. This
Yeah.
is
Mhm.
stuff that audience is expecting. These aren't twists and turns. We're not going, oh man, he died, I can't believe. Like, it's
Yeah.
more like, oh, I was wondering when he was gonna die. That's how I'm feeling when I'm watching this. And that's just not, it's not keeping me on the edge of my seat like that.
No,
Yeah,
I
it's
feel you
yeah.
on that one. Go ahead, Jake.
Just killing characters is not a twist. That's not
Right.
how, like, and so, like, it's not a narrative. Is it a narrative twist for Talos to get shot and killed? No, not a narratively a twist at all, because the people who shot and killed him are people who have wanted to kill him this whole time. So, like,
Right.
I think that surprise and shock is the easiest, like, shortcut way of making TV interesting, and it almost always doesn't work well. And I
Mhm.
think that this has just been a lot of, like, series of, if I'm being completely uncharitable, of them jingling keys at us, being like, "Oh, a character died. Pay attention. This is interesting." And it's like, no, make actual stakes, make interesting scenes, yada yada yada. How did we have a whole episode where fucking Academy Award winner Olivia Colman was not in it? I mean, these are
Ah,
questions that, like, that's malpractice. What are we doing?
Definitely
yeah,
felt that
yeah.
this week.
Yeah, it did. And it's like one of those things where it was a 37-minute episode with credits, but it didn't feel like it like moved that fast
No.
either. It's just, and it's again, it's the stuff happening types of things that I didn't feel like, even with MCU TV shows that we have been
Mhm.
critiquing, Jake, in the past, we haven't have never felt like this, where it just feels
No,
like stuff is moving from station to station to station to station.
not at
Mhm.
all. Yeah, I think that like, in the shows that I've been most critical of, like Falcon and Winter Soldier, for example, like, it was just a lot denser. Like, it's not just
Mhm.
Mhm.
that stuff is, it just feels like stuff to stuff, like, not a lot of stuff is happening. Whereas
Right.
Falcon and Winter Soldier was like globe trotting and had a lot of different themes, and we spent a lot of time. I think, once again, I think a huge issue is just that I feel like in Falcon and Winter Soldier,
Mhm.
we knew basically what the villain's plan was at 2 episodes in, and I mean that as a good thing. Whereas
Right.
this, it's like they're just giving like hints, like, "Oh, are they going to have superpowers? Are they going to?" It's like,
Right.
if I don't know what I'm fearing, like, are they going to try to blow up the world, or are they going to try to take over the world, or are they going to, like, at a certain point, the if you're going to do it this way, don't show us the villains at all, is my opinion, because it feels like every
Mhm.
time we cut to their base, it feels like they're just trying to, like, tease us, and it's like, yeah,
It the other
that's why it
thing
feels like just stuff happening.
Yeah.
The other thing too is, if you're going to, like, for Falcon and the Winter Soldier, they had to drop a plot line about a super virus because of COVID and all this.
Yeah.
You could
That
feel it
changed
in
things.
the script where you're like, seem like there would be a bigger, more important reason for whatever they're doing, but they're not
Mhm.
saying. This one, they
I
don't even
think the
have that
same thing actually
excuse.
happened in this show. I think that actually happened with the Russia bombing. It was supposed to be something else,
Oh,
and then they changed it.
really? Okay, because like with this one, I feel like they're holding back the main plot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the stuff I'm supposed to care about feels like not that important enough. And we alluded to it last week, but it feels like they don't want to come out and do a full, like, immigration, like, some, like,
Yeah.
messaging or something. And I don't know how you can do that. It's the scrolls. Like, if, to me, it seems their ultimate plan is some sort of, like, not just infiltration, but like making Earth their home, like living
Yeah.
in their own skin somehow. And they've held government positions for years, and yet they've done no legislation towards that. There's no, like, we see no real inner workings of the scrolls, just shady backroom meetings that where they all, like, say one cliche
And we
line
just
and
had
then
one of them.
exactly. Like
Yeah,
we
the
don't.
Skrull Council should have been a more central figure if you're trying, like, to your point about trying to get the plot across. If you have that being a part of the main plot, as if even if you do one of those teleconference things that Gravik is talking to them and he's always talking to them, talking about their plans, because they just give him the reins and it's like, all right, do your own thing.
Yes.
And that doesn't work either.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. The inner workings of the scrolls would add plot and tension, and put less weight on the Fury Talos wing of everything. And we don't
Mhm.
even really get to see the inner politics of that. We just see like Gaia is not with it and betrays him, and then kind of low key betrays her dad, or doesn't commit, doesn't isn't loyal to her dad. I'll put it that way. Doesn't join his side, but we
Yeah.
don't really see her as like right, because we still have a nebulous like, what does she really want? You know, she wants to live in her skin, but she doesn't want to take over, but she doesn't want to infiltrate, but she uses those tools. Like, it's a lot of stuff going on there that I think,
Poorly written character, in my opinion.
yeah, I feel
Oh,
like
for
Yeah.
sure.
they're letting down, yeah, they're letting down the actors. I did want to note though, Don Cheadle,
Yeah.
knowing that he is, as an actor, knowing that his character is being played by a woman's girl, he's nailing that. Like like his
Yes. To
mannerisms,
the
the
end.
way he does like his threats, and it feels like a different embodiment of the character than before. And I wanted to give him credit for that, because I know we kind of talked about him for a little bit, but I forgot to
Yeah,
say
yeah,
that.
for sure. No, it's funny because it's like the way that he turns the way that he turns on the video of Nick shooting
Yeah,
Maria Hill.
yeah.
The way he kind of skips to it a little bit is
Hmm.
it's pretty good. It's
The
pretty
way he
cool.
sits in the back of the thing with his legs crossed while everyone's shooting, and he's just chilling in the back,
Yeah.
like it felt like, oh yeah, that's like a regal woman that is like classy and
Yes.
being like, you murder each other, and then I'll step in for the aftermath. I'm not getting shot for y'all.
Can we talk about how apparently he drank half a bottle of that liquor?
Yeah, yeah,
Yo, if
he
I'm the
went in.
president, I'm like, you're not coming. Like, you're my colonel? Why you
Dog. And like that is such a weird thing to put in there, because it was so funny. But the scene was supposed to have like all this gravitas. He's quoting like this Russian like
Yeah.
person to the president in the
But the thing
UK
is,
before
you
he
can
gets attacked.
tell that he's drunk though, because
Right.
he says Lenin, the Russian, not the Beetle. Like he's
Yeah,
clearly,
right.
and obviously in hindsight, what the point of that is to show that
Yeah.
he doesn't actually care because he knows they're gonna get blown up beforehand. But
Right.
still, it is kind of like I want to know more. It feels unfortunate. I can imagine. It feels like just the way that the show has gone, that they'll probably just kill this scroll before we get to know her as
Yeah.
a scroll. I
Yeah.
want to know what is up with this scroll's personality that she's like,
Yes.
I have to meet the president. I'm gonna drink a bottle of this
You know
liquor.
what? Low key, they can't kill her. Gotta bring her back for Armor Wars or something. Like we gotta,
Yeah,
like I want to see
Yeah.
Rhodey versus his doppelganger next season or something, because that's more interesting to me than what's happening right now. But yeah, that character is now interesting to me because of how everything was played. But yeah, I just thought that was worth noting. That was some good acting. I love in the church how it's like you need to uh do something before, or it was like a cool line, but it was his posture and the
Yeah.
way he leaned in. I was like, oh man, that's so
Had a lot of
cool.
zest to it.
Yeah, it was
Had a
real
lot of
zesty. I
zest to
loved
it.
it, man. Oh,
and Rhodes beforehand is probably the least zesty character in the MCU. So that's how
Yeah.
you know it's
period.
not him.
Exactly. That's how you should, like, the fact that this motherfucker even has bars or whatever is, oh sorry, I don't know if y'all curse or not, but
No, we
No.
do. Oh,
okay.
also, you know the thing is, Rhodey, the real Rhodey, will bring her back as a ghostwriter for Armor
Yeah,
Wars. Like,
yeah. I need some bars, okay? I was looking real bad out here in Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Oh my god! But yeah, that's the fun. I mean, that's the funny. Hey, listen, man, Rhodey ain't beating these allegations to me personally, because
Mhm.
you got the Skrull looking more blacker than he is. I mean, goddamn, what's
I
happening,
know.
man? What's
I know. It's an excellent statement on what is performing blackness for people. Because I feel like when the real Rhodey gets back and finds out everybody liked him like this, he's gonna be like, "That's messed up, man." So, because I was getting drunk at work, I was more black. Is that what we're saying? Oh, now y'all like me? Get out of here.
oh shit! Oh man. Oh man. Salute to Don Cheadle though. Man, that's a good performance by him. And again, like it speaks to like there is good stuff happening. I just
Yeah,
feel like it'd be a little bit more cohesive and we, get a little
You
something
know, it's
going.
like
It'd be nice.
seeing a show where Don Cheadle and Sam Jackson are giving, and Ben Mendelsohn too, and Olivia Colman are giving really good performances. I don't include Amelia Clark just because the character's so poorly written. I can't really.
right.
It's like when you see it's the class. It's the thing of, like with the Angels, where it's like Mike Trout hit 2 home runs. Oh, Tony struck out 15 and they lost. It's like
Yes,
how
Yeah.
there's all these
yes,
elements. How are they losing?
yes.
Such a
That
great
is it.
point.
It's like that Lakers
It's
team that
it's
lost
such
to
yeah.
Detroit. Where it's like
Yeah.
on the surface,
Yeah, the
you're like,
04 Lakers.
man, they got Karl Malone, they got Rick Fox, they got Shaq, they got Kobe. Do you watch the sum of it on the court, and you're like, oh no,
It
those
don't make
guys are
no
gonna
sense.
lose.
They're getting cooked out here. Oh my goodness. Oh man. But okay, so let's talk about the Talos death, or is it? I really hope that he's actually dead.
I think
Because
he is.
Yeah, I think
thank
so.
God, because I really was thinking after they did the Gaia thing from last episode and gave us the exposition that she took the Super Scroll cocktail. Um,
Mm, I call it
I
that.
yeah.
I knew,
Wait,
Yeah.
I knew that had to be a case because it was like, it's like as I was watching it, I was like, and this is the part they're clipping out to show us next week. Like, it is
Yeah.
when I watched it this week, it filled all in. I was like, okay, yeah, that's exactly what I thought would happen. They're not killing her in episode 3. Get out of here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. And then so yeah, the Talos death thing. How do we feel about it? Because when it happened, I felt like it was one of those moments that was supposed to like hit home a little bit more for folks, and I don't think it did. I think Sam Jackson, the look on his face was just incredible.
Well, how did you describe it, AC?
I described it as if he left the he looked like he left the oven on and didn't wash the chicken. He forgot to wash the chicken.
Yeah, that was man. So I don't. I get why Talos dies, and I just
Yeah.
I think the reason I didn't feel much in this is because one, they just really made a ordeal out of him dying. Like he was already dying slow when he
I
got
know.
shot.
Yeah, for real.
And
Yeah,
like
for real.
the guy that helps is the guy, in the middle of the battle that was gonna shoot him and all this stuff. I just felt like that was kind of a waste in a way because I think there's a more personal way to have that death that maybe
Mm-hmm.
Sam
Mm-hmm.
Jackson has a moment to really like absorb it and give us some acting to the screen. It felt
Mm-hmm.
so procedural. Like this is the plot
Yeah.
time when this
Yeah.
character dies. Plot armor is now off of him. Let's just get the death over with. We move to the next episode. And I think it did a disservice to both actors there, to not have a
Mm-hmm.
more personal, intimate moment. Like it really would have been cool if Sam Jackson tries to save him, and that's how the president gets killed, and
Mm-hmm.
and then Talos still dies, but they have this moment alone, like where he's trying to like get him to somewhere to get help, like something like that would
Yeah.
have felt more deserving of how the reverence they put this relationship on top with. I think this relationship was undergirding this show
Mm-hmm.
for the first
Yeah.
3 episodes, 4, I guess, and it just feels like they tossed him away as opposed to giving him like a send off. And compared to like the relationship with the wife, it's not even close. So yeah.
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 I wish to. I mean, I thought the one thing that was cool, the makeup when he's half scroll, half human, like looked great.
Very
Like,
good.
that
That was
actually
Very
is
well
dope.
like.
done.
I mean, that's one of the things about Marvel is like VFX aside, and the VFX mostly just look bad because they rushed. But when you're Marvel, you can pay for the best craftspeople. So like the makeup, like the scroll makeup looks incredible in just
Mhm.
always because like it moves with the faces so well, and this looked really cool. The thing I wanted was a moment where he's dying in his arms, cheesy as it is, where Talos is in his scroll form because he's by all those rules he's the one who's in his scroll form the least. He clearly is like most comfortable, putting on the human skin, and making some type of plea to Nick Fury. This is all cheesy stuff, but like they're close friends. They have a like it just it's just always less impactful when we see Nick Fury see him die as opposed to having some type of connection. What is the final word that Talos leaves him on? They're just
Mhm.
it's just a missed opportunity because this is not a character that is easily thrown away. I think you can kill him. It's fine. Like I don't object to it as a plot point,
Right.
but it if all it is just to make Fury angrier or feel more hopeless, it's like, well, that's kind of a waste. I mean,
Well, we've been doing that for 3 episodes then. So.
exactly. It's like how full can the fridge get of people to motivate Nick Fury? Like, what are we doing? Like, it just felt like a disservice to, like I said, Sam Jackson, like you said, but also a disservice to Ben Mendelsohn, because I think the
Yeah,
Talos
that's
is
what I'm saying.
a character that, as written in Captain Marvel, could have been a complete forgettable character, and I think he steals a lot of scenes in that movie. And so clearly, I think that's why they gave him such a big role in this. And it's just like, oh, we're gonna have him die unceremoniously. Okay, that sucks.
I feel like they're really trying to lean towards it being Gaia's motivation more than even Fury's motivation. Like she's gonna
Yeah.
find out her dad is dead and then go on some type of rampage or whatever.
Yeah.
But then it's weird that she wasn't there or involved some kind of way. Because I feel like that's where they're gonna take it. Because if Fury just drove off like he left his straw at McDonald's or whatever, like that's not good. That doesn't. It won't feel right in episode 5 when he's totally broken up. It's like, well, you didn't seem too broken up at the time, you know.
Yeah. I mean, in fairness, he did leave something in his car in the parking lot of Walmart, so he's got to get back.
Yeah. Is the oven on?
Oh my gosh! And I think this is another part of this, another piece of this now is that now with what we know about President Ritzit not being president by the time Captain America comes around. So what do they do next? So
Yeah.
are they going to just save him, or is he going to die, or is he going to get removed somehow? What type of sense is this going to make in terms of just like narratively speaking? So you're supposed to use this Talos death to propel Fury to be the badass one last fight thing that we saw in the trailers. And what does this lead to? I mean, at least the questioning of it intrigues me, but at the same time, I have been given no confidence that this show can execute that in a way that is meaningful or impactful in any type of way. So I'm intrigued to see where that goes and where that happens. But I mean, honestly, like, I mean, to kind of sum up the episode, it's like we're 2/3 of the way through. So
Yeah.
you know, we gotta see what happens in these last two. I will say this: like, Graphic has continued to establish himself as a get shit done type of person. Like by all costs, at all means, there's no hesitation. He's making sure that Fury sees it every time. Like, hey, looky, right here.
I did appreciate how quickly he dropped the ruse after he realized Fury was there. He's just like, all right, forget the Russia thing, guys. Super Scroll time, you know. It's like, all right, cool. You know, like I like that they didn't like quibble over that. I think also there was just some overt things that were they felt like they were pushed forward because of the plot and not organic. And the Russia deception thing felt kind of like that. Like when the attack starts, then like someone literally yells out like, it's definitely the Russians or whatever, and you're just like, that's not how that would happen. Even if Russia did attack us, that's not how it would happen. Like you wouldn't know until after. Like, why are you? That is insane.
When you're getting shot at, when you're getting shot at, your first thought is always, oh, we need to first ascertain who this is shooting at us.
Yeah, and then keep in mind, it's in the UK over their airspace, which also seems like a huge stretch that, you know, maybe, and once again, because we haven't seen enough about the Skrulls, that's a chance to show us, oh, they've infiltrated the UK and they have some.
I mean, they are the Prime Minister of the UK. Remember the Prime Minister of the UK?
Yeah, but how do you control the airspace though? That's like
true.
Like, you know, the president can't be like, guys, don't worry about DC today. I got it. Like, there must be a network somewhere, and it would only take a minute, but just to show.
Can I ask a question that is, if they're pretending to be the Russians, all right, and I understand that Russia has a lot of different regions,
right?
But why is Gravik not in the skin of a white person?
Right.
Like, if anyone survives, it'd be like the leader was a black guy with a fade
and
with
keep
British.
In mind,
like, what are you?
In this
what are you
plan?
Doing?
In this plan, keep in mind they're gonna ambush an armed patrol and shoot everybody, get into a shootout. When they get shot, they die as Skrulls. So it immediately undoes the Russian thing. I just don't understand this choice, and it would have been better, honestly, and freakier if they just showed up as Skrulls. Like, it would have been
Yeah.
super bananas
Yeah.
if they all hopped off that helicopter as Skrulls and started bucking at the president. And then their escape thing was we all hop back on the helicopter, turned into other people. That
Yeah.
would scare the shit out of the world, you know, as opposed to like the Russians. Yeah, it just I don't like. I didn't. That was the part I didn't like, which is so weird to say about Marvel. Is I didn't like this action stuff. I thought it was beneath them. It wasn't smart action. It was just very. It felt like a kids cartoon. The a little amount of thought that was put into the action.
Yeah.
I think that's actually fair. I thought like just little things like when Fury shoots the rocket launcher and then just puts it down and starts shooting a gun. It's just like I would just use the rocket launcher.
I
And
think
not
that was a
use
one use. I think it was only
Oh, it's
one.
a one use
Yeah,
thing.
it was
Oh,
pretty
okay.
small. I don't know if that's a real thing, but it's pretty small. I don't think there's more than one rocket.
But you know what that means? Everyone that dies in that helicopter is just gonna be like green parts on the ground. People are gonna know it was Skrulls. But I feel like this show won't pick that up next week, and it'll
No, they're
just be
gonna
like
skip it.
they'll say, yeah, it was just like humans dying or something. And like I said, if they went more into the Skrull side, it and showed us how like deep they had infiltrated everything, then you could write all this stuff off as like, oh, they're just so powerful at this point. They can clean that up and no one will ever know what happened because they control all the governments or something. But they haven't really gone that far. It just feels like because if they also could go that far, you feel like at some point they just be like, guys, we're letting the Skrulls in. We already let Asgardians in.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. No,
I mean, I'll be honest with you, that is a thing that I think is anytime they talk about, like, they don't accept refugees, yada, 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 the fact that they don't even acknowledge New Asgard is, like, one of the problems of having a shared universe. That, like, that is anyone who pays attention to the MCU is like, what do you mean? There's a whole community of aliens in northern Norway. I think you're wrong. They do let refugees in from other planets.
This world has seen so much. It honestly feels like at this point, letting 1 million aliens into the world, it wouldn't be a big deal. Like
you legitimately have a huge ass alien entity sitting in your ocean, just chilling there.
Also, like, and the thing is, the detail they mentioned early on, which I think is an incredible detail about the Skrulls, which has not really been addressed again, is that they are immune to radiation, right?
Yeah.
Why on earth can't the governments of the world be like, okay, there's 1 million aliens, we'll build you a metropolis at Pripyat, Ukraine, right near Chernobyl. No one wants to live there. That land is useless otherwise. They could
got it.
Basically anywhere, like, obviously 1 million people is a lot of people, but there are any area that there is currently nuclear radiation. It's like, hey, go ahead, build the biggest city your heart desires, Skrulls. Do whatever you want there. Like, this is actually not that hard of a problem. I understand that they obviously don't want to be confined to these areas. That is why they wouldn't accept that. But once again, the fact that they are so resistant to even stepping a little bit into creating a parallel to actual real life problems. Because what I'm effectively describing is like reservations, which of course is a problem in itself. And they don't want to touch any real life political problems because, as I said last week, as the tweet pointed out, that this is a political thriller with no politics, that they kind of just have to avoid anything that would be interesting about the real life implications of Skrulls invading us.
Like, because America would immediately be like, y'all can have 3 Mile Island. Like, that's y'all, okay? Don't even
3 miles. That's bigger than Manhattan. I mean,
good luck.
Yeah, I'm actually. I think another thing about this episode, the Talos Gaia conversation. If I was Gaia, I'm glad at least she played it that way, because I would have not believed anything that Talos said, because it's just so unrealistic. We're gonna show them who we are, and everything's gonna be okay.
After 30 years or however long they've been here, that wouldn't fly. I do like the idea.
You haven't seen one documentary about the history of humanity?
I do like the idea of generational differences among the Skrulls, but once again, that's things I would be interested to explore more than like a fake.
If they ever had the chance to explore,
I feel so terrible saying this, but I almost think that obviously there is a good version of the show that is about Nick Fury coming to terms with this, that, or the other. But so many of the ideas introduced in the show that are completely dropped, you're like, if this show was not, the main character of the show was not Nick Fury, they would have a lot more space to do all this.
Yeah.
Like, once again, I'm not saying that they don't want a Nick Fury show, but like, if the show was like Talos, Gaia, and maybe some other like B-list characters trying to stop the Skrulls, and they didn't have to devote time to Nick Fury, like, Because the show
Yeah.
is not really about this. It's half about the Skrulls and half about Nick Fury. And like you kind of want the show to be entirely about the Skrulls. Now, once again, that doesn't mean that I don't want a Nick Fury show, but it's like I
I
actually
think
am not really
there
concerned at
be
all with his.
there
Mhm.
be a cool version of the show where like Nick Fury is low key like an antagonist,
Mhm.
where we're seeing more of the inner workings of the Skrulls and their political social dynamics. And Nick Fury is like the guy who's like, man, fuck all that. Like
Yeah.
y'all
Yes.
y'all not about to be just chilling on Earth. I let y'all be on Earth in the first place. You lied to me, and gonna shut this down. Like
Mhm.
that would, and then he could be Nick Fury, the
Mhm.
like all powerful, all knowing kind of get things done guy, as opposed to like watch Nick Fury. But I think the other thing is just what they filled in for Fury with this marriage to me does not work. Like we
Yeah.
didn't really
No.
talk about it in detail, but like the scene where like they're gonna shoot each other and they don't,
Mhm.
just I mean, that felt so corny to me. Like
Mhm.
it
Mhm.
was like they do the poem back and forth, and
Yeah.
it's the problem is they are introducing a character with no history in the universe as his wife,
Mhm.
um who doesn't feel like she has much history with Nick Fury. Like they haven't really taken the
Yeah.
time to do like you know what they needed was like a 5 minute montage on some like This Is Us shit, where it was
Yeah.
Yeah.
them doing a bunch of stuff over time that we just never saw. Like, oh, they're on vacation together. Oh, I don't know. They did this, they did that. She was, oh, we didn't know she was here for this huge major event. And
Mhm.
we don't get any of that. We get like one flashback of like one time she gave him information at a bar, and next thing you
Yeah.
know, they're married. And
Mhm.
even when he's saying this, like, you're the biggest mistake I ever made, it
Mhm.
it doesn't hit with me
It
because I'm
doesn't.
just like,
And
Nick Fury
yeah.
wouldn't have made this mistake, but also like I don't believe
And
I don't believe
yeah.
you.
And if he did make that mistake, there'd be a lot more passion in the scenes that they're together. Like
Yeah.
I like I said, Samuel Jackson's just not a good actor at playing romantic stuff that much, especially as he gets older. Like I just don't believe that he loves this woman that much. I'm sorry, I don't.
And I think yeah, it's very difficult. This show has managed to do two things at the same time: be slow and not tell us a lot.
Yeah.
So
That's
that
true.
is
That's
that is
true.
hard. That is very hard to do, and yet they've accomplished that.
Yeah.
It's just they've kept it kind of like
You
moving
know what it
along, and
is though?
it would have been nice.
It's
You're to your point.
it's also the like the black acting that is happening on the screen, because like the black acting is so good. I have to give him
It is
credit
good,
to
yeah.
have a thin script. All the like black stuff in here is excellent to me, but black acting takes longer. Like having a
It
drink
does, yeah.
with
It's deliberate. It's more deliberate. It's more physical and emotional at times. Yeah,
right. So when you having a drink with Don Cheadle, that goes from like a minute and a half scene with white people to like 5 minutes with black people. It's a lot of it's
yeah. A
it's a
lot of
lot of
lingering, a lot
a
of
lot of
yeah. So
staring quietly at each other and being like, "Oh, so you really don't want no Uncle Nearest?" And it's like, "Oh, I mean, I do, brother. You know me." And it's so I think that is making it longer and slower. Even though I do enjoy the black acting, but even it's weird because the scroll's not black but is black. Even the black acting between the husband and wife, those scenes take forever because it's a lot of just staring and like subtext and facial like look. It's just like, damn, man, speed it up or take it out.
if I mean, if you're gonna do it slow, then show me something. Give me
Yeah,
something to latch on to that makes me feel something. I'm
someone
asking
need
for
to
the show to
accuse
God damn it, show me something.
someone need to accuse somebody of cheating or something in those scenes. Like
Yup.
I'm saying.
it feels like something else needs to happen that's just beyond him being like, so you're gonna get your phone, stare at you for 15 seconds. She stares back for 15 seconds. Then she's like, I gotta take this. And I'm like, that feels like I wish he thought Rhodey was having sex with his wife, you know?
Um,
That would be better than being scrolls.
That would be good. Perhaps Rod. Perhaps maybe they should have had Mona Scott Young write this instead.
We're gonna have Nick Fury in a confessional, looking directly at the camera. When I finally got home, I realized that she was acting different. I actually watched that show. I want to
Yeah,
write that.
yo, that show will be fire,
Yeah,
right?
that shit will be
Oh
fun.
my god.
That's the
Yo.
Marvel hasn't done that yet. That's what we need, dog. A fake Marvel reality TV show. Someone write that, man. Oh my god. Oh,
I'm trying to figure out who they gonna get to be. Who they gonna be?
the
Stevie
mockumentary
J.
style reality
It's gonna
show.
be
Why
Stevie
has
J.
no one made that, man? Oh man, you just made me
I
want.
mean, you
Damn.
kind of have it built in. Honestly, if She-Hulk had a season 2, just kind of do a
Yes,
little mix it in. I
I
think
love
they
to
could. I
see it,
think they could
I
man.
mean,
get it.
there's definitely they definitely could do
Oh,
an
you got
episode
muted.
where
Jake,
She-Hulk.
yeah.
Well, I am.
No, we hear you
For a
now.
second, I
Oh,
don't.
yeah.
Okay.
I can imagine an episode of She-Hulk where she ends up having like that. There's a like low-level superhero reality show like a Big Brother, and she has to do
Yes,
it. Yeah. I
I'd
mean,
love
Perfect.
that. Yo,
make it
that's a
happen.
great idea. I'd love that.
It would
I
be
just
perfect,
for
man.
just I do I full confession. We're talking about confessionals. I did have to Google who Mona Scott Young is, and that's a good joke.
Uh,
AC.
yeah. No, man, now
Jake,
imagine being a scroll pretending to be black. You'd have to do that all day.
Mhm.
okay, all right, okay. So let's wrap with this. I do have a couple nerd things to ask you guys, but before we wrap on this show, let's just ask the question. So now we got 2 episodes left. We've had this a little bit of a slog, even though these shows have been so much fun to do with you guys. What are you looking for in episode 5? What are you looking for to close things out? In this case, Jake, I will start with you first.
Um, Frankly, a reason why Olivia Colman is in the show is
Yeah.
and both because I like her as an actress and because that she's in terms of like per minute on screen excitement. Unquestionably, she's been the best at it in the show. So, like, I would like to see some resolution of that, and I want Gaia to have a moment of something that's not just her looking sullen, not knowing what to do. Because it feels like they're making the mistake of to make a character interesting. So often, what shows will do is just make them not make decisions, and whereas like she kind of feels like she's even though she's doing a lot of different things, it feels like she doesn't have a lot of agency, and I want to see her have agency because once again, she's could be an interesting character, but she's been written so poorly thus far.
And how about you, Rod?
I think for me, man, I understand that Gravik is like a stoic physical villain, but I need more of a monologue. I need more, like, he needs to speak more. This nonverbal thing is kind of killing me right now. So I really want him to or at least ascend to like a good Marvel villain for me. And then I don't some of the stuff I just don't, and maybe they'll surprise you, I just don't think they can fix by the end of the show. Like, I think there's
Yeah.
just a lack of thought about some of the stuff with the Skrulls that is not gonna get fixed. You know, whether it's the inner workers of their politics, whether it's the the fallout from these, you know, the Russian thing to now we're shooting people to now people know they're Skrulls. Like, it doesn't seem like this is gonna have the impact that they set up this series to have. The stakes feel very low for something that's supposed to be like this world consuming drama. Um,
Yeah.
and so I think I just mostly want them to kind of just end it in a way that um feels like something really truly happened in this series, like something that affects
Mhm.
things. And I'll accept, you know, bringing Rhodey back somehow, and we get to deal with that in Iron Armor Wars or whatever, where we get to see like the PTSD of being in that tank. I'll take if they kill off Fury or something, I'll accept that as like a major moment in the Marvel Cinematic Universe or something. But I just need something to happen, because if not, this feels like an also ran series that you could have skipped and you wouldn't have really missed anything yet.
Yeah, and I think that is the. I mean, thinking about it now, when Bob Iger, who was it got in a little bit of hot water and for some stuff that he said earlier today, but in terms of what he talked about with the Marvel content, the dilution of it, and I would say that this show is, if you wanted to make that case, is the biggest example
Yeah.
of something that really dilutes the content which we're like to your point, Rod. I feel like this could have gone. I could have not seen this, and I don't think I would have missed a beat or felt any, felt any different so far to this point. So I think the one thing that stands out to me in terms of what I might want to see is the Rhodey explanation should be an interesting one.
Yeah.
I think again the Skrull Council not playing a part after episode 2 has been a misfire on top of that too. Olivia Colman, the Jake point that he made as well. And honestly, the why should we care about this version of Nick Fury? We have not gotten a reason to care.
Yep.
And I think that's what these shows are supposed to do. They're supposed to get us to care, and we are not there. So,
Yeah, as of right
I'm
now,
interested.
the only thing
Yeah,
as of right now, the only thing in this series that I would point to that seems to have affected, that may have some effect outside of this series, like in some other series it could be brought up. Right now, I would only say Maria Hill died.
I
Right? I
mean,
mean, because
even
Talos was
yeah,
mostly always pretending to be someone else. So it's
right.
not like he's gonna be missed by like Peter Parker in the next Spider. Like, tell me I'm wrong. Like, what has happened that we need to discuss when we see another Marvel film or another Marvel series? I don't see it yet.
Yeah, I think it's a yeah, and I think with 2 episodes left, you should feel more than what we felt to this point, and I think that's kind of where we are right now. So
In
we'll have to
She-Hulk,
see.
by this time in She-Hulk, uh Banner had been sent off, and we were like, is there gonna be like those are effects on the Hulk? The Hulk as a character will come back with like a kid. There may be a World War Hulk at some point. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, that is an effect outside of She-Hulk. She-Hulk is part
And
of the
by the way,
universe.
I'm glad you said that because the biggest thing that these shows are supposed to do are supposed to put over the characters, the main characters that are in it. She-Hulk did that in spades. We knew Jennifer. We know Jennifer now, and we bring her back, this is a fully fleshed out character. Nick Fury, I don't know shit.
Yeah.
I still don't
The
know
one
shit.
thing we learned new about him is the marriage, and the marriage was kind of fake anyway. So it's like we didn't learn anything about him in that situation. In She-Hulk, Daredevil had come. There's gonna be a Daredevil spinoff show. You know what I'm saying? Like in
Yeah.
Hawkeye,
Exactly.
you got Echo. Like, this is not giving us that. Like, unless they're gonna make a graphic show, which it doesn't feel like at this point. I feel like you could skip this, and that's not a. I've never said that about a Marvel show before until now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that is all fair, and we'll see what happens next week on Secret Invasion. I do want to quickly ask you guys a couple of things before we go. Firstly, we did get some set photos this week of a certain clawed individual, Wolverine on the Deadpool set, Deadpool 3, Wolverine in the yellow and blue suit. Rod, as a fellow nerd, what did you think of this?
I mean, I love the yellow and blue suit. Hugh Jackman's still too tall, but it's all good. I'm sure they'll have jokes about it in the script and stuff. Like, I love Deadpool because they get to make jokes about the MCU that we make, and
Mhm.
now that they're officially in the MCU, I really think they could have some real fun with this, like some of the meta ideas. So I'm very excited. I love that Hugh Jackman is excited to be Wolverine again, because after
Yeah,
Logan, he sounded like Fox had just really like like he just wanted to be over with. Like, put me out of my misery. Thank God I at least got to make one good movie as Wolverine. Is how he sounded in his interviews.
yeah.
But his Ryan Reynolds like
His energy,
bromance
yeah.
and all this, that the energy from this movie feels great. The only issue is, of course, right, there's a strike happening. So I like, we're getting set photos, and I'm like, are y'all even gonna finish filming that? You already didn't have writers, so you can't even ad lib any lines, and now you don't. You're not gonna have actors. Like, why did y'all try to push? Why did you even try to squeeze this in? It was such a weird thing.
So, okay, so I'm glad that I got the nerd perspective from you, Rod. And
Mhm.
Jake, I want to ask you because this is something that we've used the Twitter account, we've
Mhm.
kind of used this show to
Mhm.
talk about the writer's strike and how it's become a thing. And I think the more details that we get about what the studios have been
Mhm.
trying to implement, I think it tells you how serious that this actually is. And I think people don't understand how serious this is.
Yeah.
So, like, it's great to get set photos. It's great to see cool stuff. And it's like, yeah, Wolverine, Deadpool, all cool. TVA involved, Mobius, the whole 9 yards. Should be interesting. Fox X-Men, great. That's awesome. But, however, pay the writers, man. Pay them.
And now pay the actors.
Pay the actors.
The thing about
Compensate
the
them
thing
fairly.
about actors, because I think that people, whenever I saw the actors are going on strike, it's like, oh my god, they don't need this money. They have managed yada yada yada. You know how many members there are of the Screen Actors Guild? 160,000. The vast majority of them are not full-time actors. Most of them do it as a side thing and they try to make it. And then there's a lot of them that, have to, like, the thing people don't realize is if a tiny, like, recurring role is replaced with AI or whatever, that might mean that a SAG actor doesn't meet the qualifications for health insurance and suddenly their kid can't get an operation. And, like, I know I'm being dramatic, but, like, this is what we're talking about. I mean, you saw the proposal. I know you retweeted it, AC, that they were.
Yeah.
And this is something they can't even technologically do yet, but the fact they want to says everything. To like,
Mhm.
oh, what if we were just scan background actors for VFX and then just place them in? They only need to work one day. It's like, so what you're doing is you're taking away the way that a lot of people in Hollywood make it by, and it's such an anti-art way of looking at things. And I think that we've been very firm, and I think it's very important for people who have any sort of voice in the fan space to be like, well, we can wait, because you can tell already with the way that some of these things, the press releases are worded.
Yep.
These companies are trying to leverage people like us to get mad at the actors. They're like, with all the headlines about like Comic-Con or whatever, they want people like you and me to be like, oh, these spoiled actors won't go to Comic-Con. No, shut the fuck up. We are not on your side. We like these stuff because the people who are in it and the people who write it. We do not.
Right.
We don't do the show because we have an affinity for the suits at Disney HQ who pay the money.
Right.
I don't give a shit about them.
Bob Iger calling this shit a disruption. Like, that's what strikes are. They're disruptive. They're supposed to be.
Right.
And they're like,
Because
and they're like, well, what about all the below the line people who are hurting? It's like, I agree. You know who has more money than anyone in this equation to take care of them? You do. Like, you can end the strike. Like, it's the AI thing is, it's obviously there's a lot of stuff with money and residuals and things like that. Specifically the idea that, like, in the streaming world, the amount of time something you make is viewed has nothing to do with how much we get paid. That's not how Hollywood works. Hollywood used to be that if you were on a TV show that was successful, it had reruns, and then you made more money, so you tried to be successful. If that is no longer a thing, if you're a writer and you don't get paid more because your show gets watched more, there is no. What's the point of being good? Like, that's kind of it's just. I encourage people to actually read what's being talked about because it's so bad.
Keep in mind the numbers for streaming are mostly what they tell us the numbers are.
Exactly.
So we don't even they could be. There's no real transparency, and then so much of it seems designed to just not pay people. It's not just that we're disagreeing on how much to pay. They're starting with nothing. Like, we don't want to. You should not get anything from streaming ever. You should not get anything from we're trying to stop your residuals. We're trying to stop. We want to use your likeness. You should not even get anything for your likeness for the rest of your life. These are draconian positions that they're taking. And I think on the one hand, it's making it very easy for people to sympathize with the writers and the actors, which is because the studios are taking such a hard stance. And I love how you pointed out, like, the way that we get paid is not it's designed. It's almost like an NBA contract when you hear an NBA or a football contract, a quarterback contract, and they're like, Patrick Mahomes is getting $300 million, and you're like, wow. And then you look into it and it's like, oh wait, they don't have to pay him this, and it's only if he does this, and it's only if he. Oh wait, he's getting 30% of what they reported in the news. That's how it is with these with the way we get paid as writers and actors. You get like a gross check, right? What every week that you work on a project, right? And then any other time of the year you don't make anything. So like if you're working for 16 weeks, you get 16 weeks of pay to stretch out for your entire year. Then you have to pay like your agent. Then you got to pay your management, representation, your lawyer. They get their money before you, by the way. So then if you have those people, they get the money first. Then you get what's left. Taxes come out of your part, and it's taxes for all of it, not taxes for the part you received. Taxes for what the lawyer got, you're paying the taxes on that too, and then lastly, like, a lot of this stuff with like insurance and whatnot, you have to qualify for it. So if you're not
Yeah.
working enough hours or gigs or something like that, you might, like, people talk about how great the health insurance is. If you don't qualify for it, it's not great. You don't have health insurance.
Right.
So I think people don't talk about that. And then you have to pay your dues to the union and all that stuff. And it's not just us, it's also like states passing laws for children to work as children now. Like, it's like there's a million people out of our workforce because of long COVID. Like, there's a lot of pressure on capitalism right now to break the working class and put them in like serfdom. And we're just one symbol of people that are like fighting against that. But you, the person that is not in this industry that may be listening to this podcast, I know you're feeling that pressure too when you see $6 for eggs and it wasn't like that a month ago or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, we're all experiencing that. And I think most people just don't have the benefit of having a union to take an official organized stance. But I think most people would, hopefully reasonable people, you side with workers. You want that $15 minimum wage. You want people to have health insurance and stuff. I think that's, hopefully if you're listening to the MC University podcast, if you listen to the MC University podcast, hopefully you're living the ideals of some of these Marvel heroes who would definitely be on this side of everything except probably Rhodey.
And the thing
Yes.
too is, I think that generally speaking,
100%.
this country is
Yeah.
incredibly anti-union. So anytime there's a strike, they usually side with businesses because,
Right.
man, there's just this taste of food is so great for some people in this country.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I personally think that one, the opinion of unions is at its highest it's ever been since like 1960, which is good. And two, I think that the studios have grossly overplayed their hand. I don't think they realize how, because what a lot of people have pointed out is that they're playing the strike playbook like it's 2007 and it's not. And
Yeah.
like, people know that the entertainment industry is different. Like, because I was talking to my mom on the phone, and I'm like, I explained to her, and it's a really obvious thing with writers in particular. It's like, TV used to be that there was 22 episode seasons, and there was 10 people in every writer's room. Now we've moved to a thing where there's 6 episode seasons, and only 2 people write it. If everyone who can hear that is like, oh, well, obviously the way that writers get paid should change, but the studios are saying it shouldn't, which is like,
Right.
everyone had realized that this crazy position. So I think that it's important to keep clear what the objectives are, and I think that the whole thing that the anonymous studio source said that went viral of saying, we're trying to make everyone homeless, is basically what they said, is what we're going to keep waiting them out until they lose their apartments. I think, and smarter people than me have said it too, that is a scare tactic I think that shows that they realize that they're kind of fucked. That I think they thought the actors would roll over and they would just be able to fight against the writers, but the fact that the actors are on strike, like, that is a big problem for them.
And
Yeah,
I mean, more so than anything,
I saw that quote, and one thing it made me think they need writers.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, I mean, Bob Iger on CNBC today just made a total ass of himself, if you really think about it. Like, just put it into perspective, let's say this strike just goes to October. Let's say it just goes to October. I'd say there's a decent chance you don't get a Marvel movie next year.
Yeah.
So that's box office, that's marketing, that's all of that out of the window in terms of gate and everything and profit, all of that gone for 1 year.
Mm-hmm. And you think the shareholders that wanted that money, they think that they're going to let the executive who made that decision stay on? No, their ass is getting fired. So that's why I think they're complete. They don't want it to go to October. Like, that is complete. That's just a lie. And also the thing too,
I'm already seeing people pushing stuff back. Like, I've already Shang-Chi got pushed back. It's happening right now because maybe the average movie fan doesn't know, but I assume people that listen to this do. Man, it take a long time to make a movie, bro. Like, it's a lot of planning and rewriting and stuff, dude. You can't just push the brakes on this and then come back like nothing happened.
Yeah, just to give you an example, Daredevil started shooting here in February, and it stopped about a month ago. And it was supposed to shoot from February to November. And think about how much time they're missing. All of that time, it adds up. So we're looking at a 2024 release, probably a 2025 release, and then you start to look at that in terms of content and profit and all of that stuff. Hey, man.
And the one last thing I'll leave it on, I forget who said this exactly, but it really shows how kind of lost the strategy of the studios is that they simultaneously they're saying in public these writers are greedy, they want so much. But then they also say, if we let the strike go on, these writers are so poor they'll be homeless. People are not that dumb. Like, people are pretty dumb, but you can't simultaneously saying these writers are greedy and also if they strike for 5 months they'll be homeless. Like, it's one of the two, and I think
Right.
people know that it's the same.
Right.
And
So, yeah.
remember, never forget what people are asking for. When you hear what people are asking for, and then when you hear that the studios don't want to give that to them, it's like, oh, okay, okay. They're showing you they're showing you who they are. That's the thing about rich people. When you don't do what they want, woo boy, you get to see the real. You get to see the real cruelty and it came out today in full force. So, again, this podcast has continued to say it. I said it earlier today. I was like, hey man, we went through the pandemic and we were still doing this show. We're going to continue to do this show regardless of whether there's Marvel content or not. We will find ways to talk about something.
Yep.
So, as full support of the writers and actors, get paid, get compensated properly,
And
get
fuck
that
AI.
AI shit.
Yeah.
Get that AI shit out of here.
Also, like, can I just say about
yeah.
AI real quick? It
Yeah,
is
go
so
hit us.
it's such a boogeyman because I don't even believe they can do the stuff that they want
No,
to
they
do
can't.
because they like they have a hard time doing it with human beings and round the clock stuff now. Like, and your computer doesn't work now. It probably made a Windows chime sound at some point. It probably needs an update somewhere. Your Xbox, sometimes you got to actually hit the button because it doesn't turn on when you just nothing works the way it's supposed to work all the time. So you need humans. This boogeyman AI stuff is just so transparent and nakedly gross because it's basically like their whole point is like, at least we wouldn't have to pay. We'd rather have terrible quality that is inconsistent, it doesn't work, than have to pay a person to make something good. It's so ridiculous. And there's no fan of the things you sell who wants that. You know what I mean?
The only people who are supportive
you're right.
of AI for content are blue check mark havers on Twitter who want to type in Margot Robbie having sex with me while dressed as Yuffie from Final Fantasy. That's the only people who
That's a great way to end the show. That is a great way to. We can't do anything better than that. My guy Rod, as you laugh, appreciate you for
Oh
joining
man,
us, man.
so much fun, dude. I love talking nerd stuff.
It's been a fun couple of weeks. Tell us where we can find you. Where can we find you?
You can find me on the Black Out Tubs podcast. It's a podcast me and my wife do 5 days a week normally. Pop culture, comedy, a bunch of stuff. I currently am writing for a podcast called Draptomaniacs, Unshackled History, but with Michael Harriet. So if you like Black history, but you like comedy, you should check it out because it's got like we try to do some spoonful of sugar to go with the obviously tragic histories that we are exploring in America. But hopefully people check that podcast out. So Draptomaniacs, and it is DRAPETOM something, but it ends with an X instead of the CS. So Draptomaniacs.
Awesome stuff, man. Jay Christie, where can we follow you, sir?
You can follow me on Twitter at the Jay Christie. You can follow me on what is that? Blue Sky at jchristie.bluesky.social. And you can listen to my other podcast, Love It First Psych, where me and Andre Barrera are watching the USA Network original. So Psych.
Yes, sir. And follow me on Twitter at AnthonyCanton_3. If you want to do the whole IG and threads thing, PoetAC9586. I did do the spill thing, but I can't even remember my username. This is why I watch Agenda, man. This is a lot of social media apps. Let me tell you, boy.
It's a lot to keep up with.
It really is. It really is. But also, you can follow the show at MZ University Pod on all platforms. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Subscribe to that. This video will be a part of that. And yes, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/MC University Pod, where you could get our latest bonus content, which will include the subscriber mailbag that Jake and I recorded before this podcast, which was a lot of fun. Appreciate the listeners submitting their questions. As always, we do these once a month along with other wonderful things. So yeah, just keep supporting and keep sharing. And yes, once again, pay those writers, pay those actors, make sure they get compensated properly. That is very important. So for Rod and Jake. I'm Anthony Canton III. This has been Marvel Cinematic University, and we'll talk to you next time.